I'm John Altschuler.
I'm Scott Bennett. We've known each other for almost 50 years.
We grew up together on the playground.
And now we're in the foreground and still growing up.
From the playground to the foreground.
Join the conversation. Back on the playground, episode 16, John.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is fun to be together. We've taken a couple weeks. We're on a pretty good cadence. We sort of said we're not going to follow any pattern until we get great guests. We've been doing awesome with our guests.
Absolutely.
And I'm very excited about our guest today.
I've been in front of the camera, though, a lot lately.
That is true.
I've been here taking lots of videos.
And tell me about it. Like this whole thing with the podcast, you know, I know it wasn't your comfort zone. I was asking, as everybody knows, for 7 years, I think. You finally said yes.
I want to push back on the comfort zone deal. I've done lots of podcasts before this podcast, and they've been well received.
There's no doubt, John. But
have you ever seen my Chris Powers podcast?
No.
I'm not. You should look at that.
I don't fangirl over you, John. I mean, we are friends, but I am not watching all your social media.
I'm just saying.
I was, as everybody knows, you have a very extensive. You could go. There are sometimes 10, 15 clips of your day. I don't know how you do. You walking, so everybody knows that. But I think this was a little bit of a stretch for you, and you didn't want to do it unless we did a good thing. And I think we're really growing. It's our 16th.
This is stretch for you.
I don't know.
Stretch for you.
I feel like I'm a natural.
I don't know. We've been working on you for a while.
Well, a couple of things. I wanted to, since we saw each other last, I thought about it last night. I've struggled with my sports. We always want to get a little sports, and I am really down on sort of NIL. We've discussed privately about that, but just the paying, how I feel about watching it, what's the motivation of the players anymore, the players' minutes restrictions, which we didn't grow up with, all that stuff. But the hockey, oh my God. And I saw you at the hockey game the other night.
That's unbelievable.
First of all, I'm right here in case you want to, whoever those tickets were from, I'm interested.
Those were crazy. I was told I was going to be sitting in a suite, and I, took the train down, got to the stadium, hadn't looked at my ticket, showed the people my ticket. They said, hey, you're down low.
I'd like for us to go to a game during this run. So can we do that? And then we'll get some clips of that. We should do that for, sure. I'm really into I'm losing my mind watching it. Like and we didn't grow up with it. It wasn't a sport we grew up with. So we had to be later adopters, and we know about my deal with the Cowboys, all those things. But the hockey right now, the last couple seasons, it's
fun. It's so fun. Intense. It's intense.
Very. And the last night was amazing. They've led for a total of 1 minute and 7 seconds in this series. Did you know that?
But they're up 2-1.
Yes.
Yeah. 1
minute for the entire series.
So let me ask you this, though. When we go to the game and they sing the national anthem, how are you going to say the word star?
Oh, good question. Fair question for all those outside of Dallas. I yell. I say it a little louder, but not a yell.
And you think that's patriotic?
I think you're still saying the word.
You're making a mockery of the national anthem.
That's one way to look at it. Definitely. But I think here we're in Dallas, and our star, Texas star, that. So there's two ways, John. Yours, mine, and the truth, right? And I thought you were going to ask me what I was going to get at the game.
We're getting nothing. We're going to be like, we're going to remember where we came from, and we're not going to afford those prices.
I agree with you on that,
right.
Actually. I don't buy that. It's not, I'm glad to say you're saying it, because
I get in the building and I spend $0.
Yeah. And yeah, I might, but you and I have different, but just because we're at a hockey game, it feels very Canadian to have a beer. That your thing. I'm just going to go along with the sport, and it seems right in the blood, but we're going to do that, right?
I'll do it.
Committing to our audience. Yeah. And we're going to see, I'm really into the hockey, and I was jealous of your seats the other night.
They were good.
So I was watching on social media.
Thank you.
Okay. Show and tell.
Okay.
Something special today, John. A little heavy, so I got to, oh my gosh. Needed more time in the gym with you.
You have 2 or 1?
Don't worry. I'm going to get there in just a minute.
Brahms. I love Brahms.
We love Brahms, don't we, John?
Totally.
And John, I know you're getting towards the end of you got a week left. You're running for school board. Everybody knows.
That's right.
I want to make sure you're not running out of gas. I feel like this is your gas.
I love that.
By the way, I didn't know if it was sweetened or unsweetened, but I guessed unsweetened because I know you.
I get one of both.
Okay, well, then you'll be fine.
Thanks.
Okay. You got 2 of them, John. I don't want you to run out.
2 unsweets? 2 unsweets. Good.
I mean, 2
love
of those,
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're stocked up, but we probably need a little extra. You're doing a lot of events.
Thank you.
Wanted you to know I was thinking about you.
Many thanks.
Like the books you gave me, I'm always thinking about you. And I wonder, we like Brahms. One day they don't know it yet, but they are going to be our deal. Our guests are going to get Brahms gift card. It's going to be fun. So we're really amping up our stuff here.
Thank you.
So excited about our guest today. We're going to get into a little school talk, I'm sure, because I'm just teasing who that is. And I know it's going to be, this is the last episode. And I want to say how proud of you I am again, one more time. What you are doing, I don't live in Highland Park, so I can't vote. But I am not only as your friend, but what you stand for, it matters not just to me, it should matter to everybody, not only in Highland Park. Teachers need to make more money. The job is hard. They've had such an impact. Our last guest, Megan Timmy, told us that. We grew up with her. I know the impact the teachers in RISD had on me, and most importantly, on my kids. I think you feel the same of your experience and your kids.
Yep.
So I'm excited to talk about our guest today, and I think you are too.
Absolutely.
Would you like to be our guest?
Or is there someone you would like to see on the show?
DM us through social at Playground Foreground.
We look forward to hearing from you.
John, our guest today is exceptional. She is the former superintendent of RISD and superintendent of the year 2017. Really big accomplishment. Dr. Jeannie Stone.
Welcome.
Welcome
Hi.
to the playground, Jeannie.
I'm so glad to be with y'all today. Yeah.
I cannot tell you how excited I am that you are here. First of all, we are two proud RISD guys all the way through K through 12.
Love it.
Totally.
You didn't transfer away.
I just want to be clear, though, that we lived in Dallas.
Yeah.
Yes, we were Dallas guys.
We grew up
Right.
outside Richardson.
Yeah, John likes to say we do. We are Dallas guys.
Yeah.
We are that little pocket.
And so is
That's
Drew Timmy.
Yeah, Drew Timmy
Quick
also.
Sandy's from Richardson.
Yeah, we got that from our last episode. And I just have to say, outside of that, we are RISD people, and I lived there till recently. I educated my kids there during a lot of your tenure there. And I cannot say enough things about the experience of my children, who they are in the world now, and how proud you would be, how many lives you have impacted through your work. Not just in RISD, because I know your career goes back and we'll get to that, but such a treat to have you on to see you again.
Thank you. It's great to be with two proud RISD graduates who've gone on to
are we
be
too
great
proud?
successes.
Are we
I
too
think
proud of
not maybe
RISD?
too proud, but you are.
We are JJ Pierce Mustangs.
Yeah.
We think, there's no question, it's the best mascot of the four,
Okay.
right?
Totally.
Best colors of the four.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we were in a lot of those gyms, but all the gyms. But I think John was mostly playing in them. I was watching John play.
I don't think we had the best gym.
We did not have the best gym.
No.
And I actually think Lake Highlands Stadium, right, is a neat stadium.
It's got more edge to it.
Well, it has
The
that-
Arrival.
it had more, at its time, it felt more, totally the Arrival before they did all the renovation with the bond money and stuff. But anyway, Jeannie, tell for our listeners who don't know, just, I know that currently you're serving as the superintendent in residence at Commit Partnership. So a little about that, but what you've been doing last few years and kind of what you're doing in the world now.
Great. So I retired 3 years ago after 32 years all in public education, all in Dallas, all in the Dallas area. I was born and raised in Mesquite, went to school there for 12 years, then became a teacher, assistant principal, worked in some central office places there. So Mesquite was my home.
Wait, which high school did you go
Yeah.
to?
Mesquite Skeeters.
Skeeters.
So when you're talking about
Skeeters.
mascots, I
That's
can
cool,
talk
that's
about the
Skeeters.
the great Skeeter.
What's a Skeeter?
Yeah, a Skeeter's a mosquito.
Okay, that's what I want to make
Yeah.
sure for people. There may be some people who do not.
Yeah, it's
No.
a mosquito. Swatum is the kind of our big rally cry. So yeah, maroon and white. Can still
Awesome.
sing the school song.
Awesome.
But then had a short little stint in Wiley ISD before I moved into Richardson. I too lived in Dallas, and I think we were neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We saw each other at Target.
we did.
You punked me in the line. I thought that was funny.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't remember, but I do.
I remember seeing you. I don't remember.
I had-
talking
you
to
had
you.
That's a really good punch. You
Yeah.
don't even remember it.
Yeah.
I was just impressed that she remembered me after our first meeting.
Oh,
I mean,
of course.
you did recognize. I'm unforgettable. I get it. but-
No, you're not. One of the things I do have is I remember everyone. So yeah, working with thousands and thousands and thousands of kids and teachers. And one of the great things is I can still remember them all. But joined the Richardson community, moved in, loved it. I landed my favorite job ever, which was to be able to really support a school district and lead it, but certainly not from a place of being in power at the top, but more of a place like when I was a teacher, I was leading a classroom. When I was a high school principal, I was learning and leading and supporting a whole high school. But to get the opportunity to lead an entire school district at the time, we were around 38,000 kids and all of the families. So you're talking, 75,000 parents and then the whole community. It was just one of the greatest times of my whole life. When I retired, I laid out for a little bit, but realized when you have the kind of passion that I have, it doesn't die out just because you maybe don't have a role or a title. And so I'm back in lots of different ways in Dallas. I serve on a lot of boards that are supporting education initiatives. As you said, I'm the superintendent in residence for the Commit Partnership, which is a nonprofit that actually works with all of our school districts, including Richardson ISD. So I still get to all those relationships that I had when I was superintendent. I still have them,
but a different capacity.
In a different capacity, working together in collaboration for students and families, all kids. And if you remember from my time when I was leading in Richardson, all means all, and working to support all families, all kids in all ways. And I'm so glad to see all the great things that are still going on there. I'm still a huge fan of the school districts. Obviously, I still love it. Like you, I think, when you talk about who you are and how you were raised and all those things, it all goes back to Richardson ISD, right? And that love of that community. And it's in just the DNA. It's in mine too. Even though I only had a short little period of time there, it's still in the DNA in terms of all that I love.
You're one of us.
Yeah, I really am.
I felt that as a constituent of what you were leading. I met you in a professional setting, but most importantly, as I said, what you said, I remember when I saw you, even before I met you, like something different about you. I never really, to be honest, I never engaged in my early years. I did a lot at Brentfield at the elementary. I started a program on campus. I think it was the first in the district for dads on campus. Yep. Extremely proud of that. Still a very thriving program.
Still there, yeah.
But just the way that you were relatable. I could see that you seamlessly worked with both your contemporaries, peers that you worked with, the classroom teachers. I know some are still there who I know and friends with, and then how you met with families. And I think that's great leadership. So just got to say that. And I think it's a good segue to John. John is running for school board, and I think you're a tremendous leader. I've always thought you're a great leader.
Thank you.
And I think you're going to do good things. And I'm just curious, off the bat, how did you work with the school board? Like, honestly, was it sometimes I imagine a hindrance, but was it a good experience, bad experience? What was that like as a superintendent to work with the school board?
Yeah. I mean, the superintendent hires you. And so they choose you to, join their team of 8. You become a team of 8 working collaboratively around tables and on everything with them. They really are your team that you spend a great amount of time with. And so, when I was hired, I first started out as deputy superintendent. So I was hired and I worked in partnership with Kay Wagner, who was the superintendent at that time. She was supposed to stay there 3 years and I was going to succeed her. And that was sort of always the plan. But I think I was there for about 6 months. And then she decided to take a leave of absence to take care of her parents and family who were ailing at the time. And so I stepped into the role of interim superintendent. And then I was in that role for about a year. And then thankfully, the board did not go out for a search. They allowed me to step into the permanent role. So, had a lot of great experiences before with the district and with the board. And they really knew me before I became superintendent, more so than most people get the opportunity who just go in for an interview, right? So They chose me based on what I had been doing the prior year. And those beginning days in particular of just norming and forming that team and around the priorities and everything were some great days of working with some of the most tremendous people. I have such admiration for school board members who are willing to give of their time. So thank you, John, for aspiring to be a member of a team that's working for the benefit of families and kids. And so it was just those are some of the best days of my life pre-COVID. COVID changed everything, right? And so, and I really look at my times in Richardson as the time before COVID and the time after COVID. Yeah. And I don't necessarily look at them the same way. I think COVID changed everything for everyone in every way, right? And but yeah, so that's kind of my history there. But always just great days of fond memories, love for that school district.
How does COVID change things now?
Yeah.
What's an after impact of COVID?
Yeah. So,
lingering impact.
yeah, there's definitely a significant learning loss that we're still recovering from. And we always said that when we came back, it would take years to recover from that. But that was all just speculation. But now we're, what, 5-6 years away out of that. And we're seeing that in terms of just still, we're just now getting back to where we were before COVID, where we should be 5 years advanced in many, many ways. Just the time that kids had where they were not engaged in learning, they were not building those relationships, they didn't have that social interaction. Schools are still trying to get that back on an even plane, but it's we're seeing that things have really changed, much more increased or higher amounts of discipline issues, that less engagement than what we had before. And of course, still just a lot of the disparities that we had widened in terms of the disparities and inequities.
One thing that has not changed, and I can't help but bring it up, is school safety, school shootings.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to me. I mean, I just literally can't with each shooting. I mean, we had in a single week, almost a year to the date later at Wilmer Hutchins. And I saw last night, kids don't feel safe. There was a walkout at the school. And then in the same week, Florida State University. I mean, that has not changed. COVID did not make the guns stop getting on campus.
Right.
And I can't. So just curious about that.
Yeah. Definitely. And one of the things we never want to do is for that to be normalized. We always have to be vigilant to trying to keep everything, to do everything that we can to make that to where that's not just normalized. There are lots of things that the school is working to do. Obviously, safety measures put in place, increasing trauma-informed counselors, making sure that the culture of the school district is one where kids feel welcome and safe. And all of those are things that we have to be very vigilant and, follow best practices across the country of things that are being done. One of the things that I can talk about now, but I really think about it's a piece of data that I read not long ago that an estimated 4.6 million American children live in households with at least one loaded and unlocked firearm. And so, kids don't go into the school and find the gun that's left, in a place it shouldn't be. They bring it in from their home. That was just a staggering statistic that shaped some of my thinking, because immediately we look to the schools that what are the schools not doing? They're not doing enough. The kids come into the schools and then they walk out because of protests and things like that. I think that we need to be doing a lot more to really, really have campaigns about securing firearms and, ensuring that kids don't have access to them. So, that's a big thing that I think about. And then all the other things. But fostering a trusting school environment is certainly something that is really, really important. I think the statistics would show that a lot of the school shooters were students, had shown signs in advance. And, of course, we don't just necessarily think that's a school shooter, right? So, but, having things in place, relationships, those are truly the 3 R's. If a kid feels that they are not alone, if they have a trusting adult, obviously extracurricular activities, those kinds of things get kids involved. The kids that don't feel that are often the ones that act out in, troubling ways.
I'm just curious, is it an issue? And as you've been talking about issues, I don't know if I've seen it in Highland Park. Is school safety at the top? I mean, I know teacher pay is really big for you, and we'll talk about that. But where does that in your thought process?
One of the things about Highland Park that's unique is we have 3 police departments that have jurisdiction over our school district: Dallas, University Park, and Highland Park.
Right.
And so when people ask me about school safety, I remind them, like, no one on the board or anyone running for board is a school safety expert or a safety expert. However, we have 3 elite police forces, and we should be leaning into them all the time and doing exactly what they say.
Yeah.
That's how I think about school safety, is local, and we have 3 police forces, and take the best practices and implement them everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't recall, and I talk about my time, ever thinking about safety was a different conversation.
We thought about nuclear war.
Yeah, nuclear war.
We were preparing for that.
And tornadoes.
Right.
Yeah.
Tornadoes.
You know,
Duck and
and so
cover.
it's like as I'm sitting here hearing us talk, we had to prepare for so many different things. And those, by the way, those things are not off the table either. But now we have this, so we've added more to our plate, which is all the more reason that teacher pay. The job has not gotten easier. One thing I wanted to bring up about that is it's come up in earlier episodes, and I saw this morning, must have been a sign. There's a show that's doing really well right now, Adolescence. They're talking a lot about it. They're saying people, even without children, should watch it to understand. And it's really exactly what you said.
Yeah.
You can't, whether you have kids or don't have kids, you need to be more plugged into your kids' social. And it's not just social media, it's digital, what they're consuming, how they're consuming it, how much they're consuming. I know we've heard that, and there's permissioning and locks. Thoughts about that in general, and then in school?
Yeah, I watched the episode. It's a great short 4 series. It was very, very concerning because it does make me think about the real life schools that are all around us. And, if you haven't seen it, it is just about a kid that anyone would think it would be like one of our kids that would be just, very happy, involved, those kinds of things. There were just a lot of troubling things that were going on under the surface that no one knew about. Some adult needs to know about that. And, ideally it would be parents, right? Obviously, but not all kids have parents who can, invest in them the way that we invest in our kids. And so training for schools just is imperative across the board because, kids have relationships not just with their counselors, but with all of the educators in the building, of warning signs to look for. And, the hopelessness, I think, is one that oftentimes, and when you're talking about kids, you might have 1,000 kids in your school, and you just never know the hopeless kids that are walking around, and finally they crack. But I think it's something that we have to continue to have conversations about, which is how do we support those kids to give them hope. And those are some of the great things about public education, that we need to have leaders leading ways so that the kids are feeling like doors are open for them.
I think that's not just a kid issue. That's an everybody issue.
Yeah, it really is.
I was with one of my buddies who's younger than me, and we're good friends, I feel like. And we were talking, and I could tell he was struggling on some things. And I could tell he felt like he was not in relationship with many people.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, "Hey, buddy, how many friends did you have?" And he thought about it for a second. He said, "1." I was like, "Buddy, aren't we friends? Aren't you and I, we're friends, aren't we?" And he thought about it. And it was interesting to me that our definitions of friends were so radically different. I felt like we're really good friends, and he's feeling like I don't qualify in his definition as a friend. And I wasn't upset by that, but I was a little unsettled that, hey, wait, I think you have a lot more friends than you're giving yourself credit for. But I realized that's a friend in my circle who was at the moment was struggling with his sense of relationships with others.
Well, it begs the question, how good of friends are we, John?
We're best friends.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You think so?
I do.
Okay, well, you're right. I never thought of it that way. And I do think it's an issue. I'm a big brother. I became a big brother a year ago, and I have a 12-year-old who's been to the podcast, and it's been profoundly impactful. I was speaking to his mother last night. He's getting baptized this weekend, so I'll be there, and I'm excited about that. I'm his only friend.
Yeah. You think about that. Think about that fact that y'all met when you were at Bowie. Think about how times were different then. You were playing outside all the time.
So
you were,
easy.
sun up, you're outside playing, riding bikes, really engaging with lots of kids. You've held on to those relationships now. Think about how different this is now in terms of kids behind one computer screen. And not that kind of engagement that y'all had that has formed this friendship and relationship.
And as our loyal audience knows, but you may not know, and sort of heard me mention today, John was much more, it's just true. We were in class together, but I don't even know that this would happen today. But John was often picked early in sports. If we were playing sports, he was kind of I was a little later. The fact that you could be very different or have different sets of skills, that we were sensitive and accepting in a way. He kind of had to. His mom made him.
I was also passing all the standardized tests.
I was too, John, and I didn't have to take them again.
So.
I know John doesn't.
I don't think so.
John doesn't think I've graduated, Jeannie, or that I've done well in the standardized test. And I didn't like the standardized test. I did later. I took the LSAT too and the SAT. I did the SAT 3 times. Wasn't my thing. Mostly an intention issue that they didn't. RST wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you're right about that. I think you bring up a really good point. It's important above all else, and Megan Timmy said it. I think parents who I talk to say it. You got to be involved with your kids. That has not changed. Your parents were involved.
I don't think they were nearly as involved as we think we have to be involved today. I think we're perhaps too involved.
Well, but
parents like us.
We've said that, true. Because I was saying that last night, and it gets back to how we met about schoolwork. Like, are they not working because parents are not making them work? There's some things that are just so different in the universe for parents today versus the easier times that maybe we think we had.
My dad's name is Stan.
Okay.
He has 2 sons. We're 4 years apart. Bowie Elementary. I bet he set foot at Bowie 12 times.
More, I think.
Plus basketball practice. But otherwise, 12 times.
Jeannie, I had all 3 of us, my sisters and I, all Bowie under the good guidance of Dennis Johnson.
Yes.
Right? DJ?
Yeah. You called him DJ?
No, but I
definitely did not.
I am now.
He's a legend.
He was a quiet storm.
DJ was the 2 guard, the 1 guard for the Celtics.
Yeah, I know. Right. And our principal. That's why I used to love it when I would hear that, when I hear his name, because they had the same name. Same name, guys.
I never ever considered him as DJ.
No, he seemed different than because of the size, and the age.
You know what's scary is that I felt like he was 74.
I know.
And I bet he was 53.
I know. That's what I'm saying. that he seemed like Shoemaker was like 81.
99. He's 99. Yeah.
That's one of the greatest things about Richardson ISD. And of course, I wasn't raised there. And I was accepted, into the community, into the school district. But I mean, people talk about the people, the principals, the community leaders with this, hero kind of words. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that goes across the entire districts, just the legends.
I see them
with reverence.
I was literally
at
an event. I promise you're going to love this because you're going to know who she is. I was at a charity event for something called Taylor's Gift, which is in the Organ space. They do amazing work for the donor families. And I'm at this event, and this woman sees Lee and I in the distance, and she comes over. It was the 6th grade math teacher of my daughter. She's an exceptional math teacher. She's going to know when I say Jeannie Hughes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Mrs. Hughes.
Mrs. Hughes.
She taught us out. Like rock star. I'm like,
rock star.
Everybody get out of the way. I just want to talk to this lady. So while we're on one hand, we're talking about teacher pay, like celebrate these people. I mean, we're still talking about Shoemaker. I mean, seriously. So like the impact that teachers have, and I hope the teachers are listening to this, and the teachers in Highland Park know what you're trying to do. So they take jobs there, and because you make real difference. You made a difference. We know and have talked about our teachers. It's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. I mean, teachers are the most important people in the school district. And I don't say that just, in jest. I mean, they truly are. This is not just something I just say, because they're the people who are in front of the kids every single day. They're the front line. They're the ones that are going to see if a kid is hopeless. It's not going to be the superintendent, who's in another building that's, miles away from their kids or whatever. And so teachers are the most important people in the school district. When I left the classroom and I went into my first role as assistant principal, people have heard me tell the story a lot of times if you've heard me speak. But I was a teacher, and then when I was introducing myself the first time in Richardson ISD, I said I started as a teacher, and then I became an assistant principal, and then I was a principal, and then I was central office, then I was deputy superintendent, and then I became a superintendent. And I immediately stopped and thought, that's not how I lead. That's not who I am. That's certainly not what I want people to see about my leadership. It really is that I was a teacher here at the top. And then I had the opportunity to work as an assistant principal to support teachers. And then I became a principal to support the whole campus and all of the teachers still at the top. And then as I moved into central office and now superintendent, I have the greatest responsibility, but also honor to support all of these people who are supporting the kids who are at the top, but the teachers are at the front line. And that became really foundational to my leadership. And of course, the school board there is really the foundation. You know, they're the ones that are supporting everyone, right? Lifting everyone up. Because the reverse of that is that when you move into positions of power and you get up here, then not only are you looking down, but you're pushing things down, right? And you're far removed and you're not seeing it as this place of responsibility of lifting up and supporting. And that was huge to me. The second thing that in that whole like trajectory of my career, when I did move out of the teacher role, and remember I grew up in Mesquite, I also went to work in Mesquite. So I was working with a lot of my teachers, right? They were actually in my school that I was eventually the principal of. I was a principal for teachers who were my 7th grade teacher, my 10th grade English teacher, Miss Shiflett. She was at my school. And when I moved out of the teacher position to go into assistant principal, she was the first person I had to go find in the library to say, I got my first administration job. I'm going to be an assistant principal at this school still working with you. She pulled me in tight, Miss Shiflett did, took my face between her hands and said, kiddo, you better take the teacher's eyes with you. And for the next 30 years, anytime anyone ever said, what's the best advice you ever received? I tell the story because the teacher's eyes were something that I talked about in every role, even when I became the superintendent. Everyone that worked with me in Richardson, that worked with me in terms of the school district, the teachers, the administrators, everyone, it was, we have to see things through the teacher's eyes. And that would be one thing I would say that everyone in leadership needs to be able to see that the policies and the things that we're putting in place, it's the teachers are the ones who have to implement it. And if you go into different positions, or if you go into positions where you think you're in positions of authority or power and you don't have teachers' eyes on, you're missing the whole perspective of how we collaboratively have to lead a school district, which is to, make sure that, if you are implementing some kind of dramatic change in a school district, that you are thinking about how is this going to impact the teachers every day? How is this going to impact their ability to connect with kids, to do their best, to move outcomes, to see all of those things happen? But if we don't see it like that, then we can just say, we think that this is the best thing to do and everyone needs to just come on board with it, rather than let's do it with teachers and create buy-in with them because they're the ones that have to impact it in their classrooms.
I think there's teachers' eyes. I think there's also teachers' backs.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
A big part of my platform is the teacher's back.
Yeah.
Having their back, particularly around teacher pay. And here's the chart. This is what our district issues us, and it shows where we are competitively in 5 different levels of tenure. And if you average that out, we're 12th place.
Yeah.
And I feel like Highland Park is uniquely called on in this time to lead the state, if not the country, on teacher pay. And to show the example and set the example that, look, teachers need to be better compensated. In our case, they should be the top compensated teachers in the market because we're the wealthiest school district south of the Mason-Dixon line. Yes. And that we've been accepting this for this long is a neighborhood blind spot. I don't understand why we do it. And it's been really the crux of my campaign is we have to address this. We must fix it. It's never made sense to me that we pay our teachers to this level. So
that's shocking to me. And I really didn't know that because, Highland Park has not ever been a comparison district to Richardson or other districts that I led for a lot of different reasons. But to learn of the teacher pay not being also at the top with all of the resources that come in and the endowments and those kinds of things that come into the district, that is pretty surprising for me to learn.
It's interesting as a candidate to find myself arguing with people who've lived there a long time that this is okay. I'm like, no, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Not okay at all.
No.
And it's also very easy to fix because $4 million is what we need. And they've already agreed to give $1 million more during my campaign. They've said, hey, we're going to raise salaries next year 4%. That's great. I've been calling for a $10,000 per teacher raise. So we need $3 million more. I mean, I'm just baffled that I have to pull people along in this regard.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. At a minimum, it should be commensurate with other districts in Dallas County and those kinds of things is, it's pretty shocking.
Here's 4 companies to think about, just to build this out. So you have Goldman Sachs and Bain, 2 elite employers, and you have Buc-ee's and you have Chick-fil-A. So these are these wild different like tangents in our economy. And Goldman Sachs and Bain have great brands and they pay the very top of the market. And they get the best people, they get the best graduates. Like that's what they do. People will say, well, hey, teachers don't go into teaching for the pay. That's not the call for the profession. So I get it. You also don't go work for convenience stores or for fast food stores because you want to make a bunch of money. But the reality is Chick-fil-A and Buc-ee's also have elite brands and they pay the highest in their markets. They get the best people. And we know what the experiences are when we go to Chick-fil-A, when we go to Buc-ee's. The enthusiasm's better, the morale's better, the personnel are better. Teacher pays the same thing. Like go have the highest pay in your market and you'll attract the very best people.
100%. Yes,
it's a great
of course.
point.
To learn more about John's candidacy for HPISD Board of Trustees and what he stands for, check out his website, alt4hpisd.com. And he's also on Instagram at alt4hpisd.
So Jeannie, in this changing academic environment, I'd like to hear about your perspective on nonprofits and how they're impacting everything.
Yeah. So, as everyone knows, my entire career was in education. It was all in public education. And since retirement, I've really now gone into the nonprofit world. Had no idea when I was in my role as a superintendent that there were so many resources that were out there ready to wrap their arms around the school districts. I currently work for the Commit Partnership. The Commit Partnership helps unite and align school systems, but also higher education institutions, policymakers, businesses, nonprofits, community members, and then other foundations to really work to create a systemic change in the education system. So I haven't left the education system. I've just gone into another way to impact it. But it's also about improving economic opportunity. The 2 out of 3 young adults in Dallas County don't earn a living wage. Although I just recently heard that we are one of the richest cities in the country, right? But 2 out of 3 young adults in Dallas County don't earn a living wage. And I think that goes back to something we talked about earlier, which is that the school system is not just about getting kids a diploma. And I think that's one of the great things going on in public education right now is that school districts are seeing that and changing that mindset. I'm seeing school leaders see that their job is not to see, it doesn't end whenever they cross the stage of graduation. It really is about working with them, even starting in middle school, to get them inspired and aware of what career that they're in, where are their skill sets best aligned to career so that they can be successful beyond the doors.
Okay, so Jeannie, here's how I think about the landscape at the moment. Mm-hmm. You have massive changes coming in education from public funding, whether it's out of Austin, perhaps out of DC. And then like when I listen to you talk about RISD and the things that y'all focused on there, and I think about HPISD, and I think about my work in Fort Worth with the Fort Worth Education Partnership, it seems like oftentimes the independent school districts, the independent areas, even have different issues within their neighborhoods that are competing with other parts of the city or state initiatives. And in Highland Park, I've always felt like, look, we're sitting back, we're leaning back when we should be leaning forward. We can take our own agency in many ways in Highland Park because we have resources, strategic advantages that other places just don't have. So that's our opportunity in Highland Park. But then when I think about Fort Worth and I see the issues they battle with there, they're battling with the teachers union. We're never battling with the teachers union in Highland Park. Like we're trying to figure out how to support them to an even greater degree. Like, what are your thoughts on how things are unfolding and how does the nonprofit world impact this as well?
Yeah, the schools belong to the community, right? We know that. I think everyone should be a mind and set and a perspective that communities are working very much in partnership with the school districts. It's a trying time right now with vouchers coming in, and regarding vouchers, I could talk a lot. If you've been an educator in public education, then you cannot say that you are for vouchers. There's a lots of things that we could talk about that. But in terms of resources, in terms of what the school districts need, school districts across the entire state of Texas, Dallas County, we could can talk whatever region, however far out you want to go, but are adopting deficit budgets. It's just it is the case. And so we have to have nonprofits who are willing to come in and catalyze their resources to support schools, districts. And it has to truly be, which is why I love the partnership name and where I work right now. If we really want to change our communities, we have to do it in partnership with businesses, because we can't just rely on state funding or homestead exemptions or taxes, taxpayer dollars. It has to come from nonprofits as well, working together.
Okay. This is a fun part of the show, Jeannie. We like to call this topics from the hat. We're going to go quick. We're going to pick a couple out. We're going to let you pick first.
This is a little scary.
Maybe. Could be.
Okay. We're going. Okay. We're talking about, oh gosh. Yeah. I will have a different perspective than y'all. So let's talk about Pierce High School versus Richardson High School.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm glad you put it in. I thought about putting it in. We're going to ask you, you have to be honest now that you're Eagle or Mustang?
Eagle Mustang Stadium or Mustang Eagle Stadium.
Do you identify with one school more than the other? I mean, you lived.
All means all. You should know that about me. All means all. And I truly, I would go when Pierce and Richardson would play in Eagle Mustang Eagle Stadium. I'm sure you have your preference, but I would go to I would go on one side and I would wear the Pierce colors. I had red Converse. I would, wear them on one side. I would switch. Yeah. I would go and I would put on the Richardson High School purple, and I would go to the other side and put on my purple Converse.
Did you have 4 pairs of Converse?
I had 8 pairs of Converse, and sometimes whenever I would play, I would wear just one of each one. There are pictures that are out there, and for history of having a red.
This is a political answer. We don't like it. We don't like it.
No politics. Clearly, no politics on the podcast. Yeah. All right, John, pick one.
School Safety Patrol. Oh, gosh. I didn't get picked. Didn't you lead that group?
Wait a second. Say it again. You didn't get picked?
I didn't want to get picked, but I didn't get picked.
Yes. Jeannie, I took it very seriously. I don't know if when you were in the district, I remember driving around. The safety patrol was a big thing. You had to be picked, selected by your teachers that you could handle the duties. That's what school safety was back then, as we referenced earlier. But
we were putting kids out there as crossing guards. They were 4th grade.
And it worked. It worked great.
Yeah, I took it really seriously. I was good at it. Yeah. I want you to know, you got a belt, you had to go to the particular room and
reflector vest.
You had a stop sign. It was incredible. So uplifting.
Yeah.
Do you think but it's not, doesn't exist. I mean, you don't see it very often anymore. Now we have paid crossing guards,
volunteers. Another great thing about the Richardson community is that you have just a lot of retired family members that live around the campuses, and they come over and they volunteer to cross the kids, and the kids love them. They're their grandparents and another example of great relationships that are formed whenever adults step in and want to be a part of kids' lives in those kinds of ways.
By the way, Safety Patrol there was premium intersections that were busier. Yeah. If you were really an A+ kid, you were getting the busier intersection. I was over by John's house. Not a lot of traffic.
Salado.
Not a lot of traffic.
Better than Salado.
Okay, last one.
Oh, that's a scary.
Oh, Colorado. We're in the midst. We talked a little hockey today. We're playing Colorado. You're currently living in Colorado. Just thoughts on Colorado.
Yeah. So I live in Colorado because for my entire career, 30 plus years, I had to needed to live in the district where I was working. And so my husband that's where we lived. And so he was my high school sweetheart, by the way. We met at Mesquite High School, been married 32 years. But we always lived there. So when I retired, I said, I'll go anywhere you choose for us to live. And we had actually fallen in love in Colorado on a church youth group ski trip, when we were in our teenage years. And he said, how about if we go back to where we fell in love, Colorado and Colorado Springs, the Broadmoor. They used to have a ski resort there. Yeah. That's where we went skiing as young kids. We live about half a mile from there. But I come back and forth to Dallas. I've been actually in Dallas each week of the last 6 weeks I've been in Dallas, I have the best of both worlds. I get to still live in the beauty of the mountains, and my husband is so happy there. We're both retired. I'm not retired, really. I'm not doing that at all very well at all. I'm working pretty full time. But, the one good thing, we talked about COVID earlier, one of the things that has been okay about COVID, if anything good came out of it, it was our ability to work remotely, right? And everyone to be able to Zoom and feel that we could still make connections across a computer screen. And so I do that a lot, but I also come to Dallas because Dallas is my home and where I love to be.
Do you like Colorado, real quick? We don't talk much about it.
I like Colorado. Yeah,
I do too.
I like the glitz. I like Aspen.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by that. But
put me in the Little Nell. I'm good.
I'm going to ask in the future episode after we do the Stars game if John and I can do a trip to Colorado. I know we're going to come visit you.
You should come visit me.
We should. Well, listen, it has been incredible to have you. Real treat for me, John.
Thank you.
I know, just with all he's doing to get your perspective and share with our audience. But just to see you again, the impact that you've had on my family, I cannot tell you. Like you said, teachers, the eyes of the teacher, I'm never going to forget that. It really had an impact on my family, my girls, and having you here so people can hear you and what you're about, because you deserve not only Superintendent of the Year, but Superintendent of the Bennett's life. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for being with us on the playground.
I appreciate you both. I appreciate you, John, for
Thank you.
going into service.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.